Good afternoon, everybody, or good morning, depending on where you are. Thank you for joining us today for our M-Files webinar about effortless compliance and quality control. If you guys have any questions throughout the presentation, please throw them down in the question box. We'll be happy to answer any of your questions. If you guys think of any afterwards, you can contact any one of us here. As you guys know, you can always contact Jim. You can contact myself, Jessica Canellis, for Intuitive. You can contact Gary for Made to Manage. You can contact Jimmy for Acumatica, HR, Payroll, Time and Attendance. You can contact Jim McCormick. And then for M-Files and Document Management Workflow, you can contact Brendan. And I'm going to go ahead and kick it over to Daniel from ImageX to talk to us more about M-Files.
Wonderful. First thing first, let me go share my screen. Okay. Can everyone see my screen? Jess?
Yeah. Yes.
Wonderful. Quick disclaimer, M-Files demos typically take about an hour-ish. We try to cram everything into about 30 minutes. So this is going to be very condensed, and the pace might be somewhat quick. Just keep in mind that you can always reach out to Brandon if you want to set up an additional follow-up meeting after the call. And I just want to lay it out there first before we kind of jump in, right? So first 10 minutes of the demo, I'm going to give everyone a quick overview of what M-Files does. And then the following, 15, 20 minutes, I'll focus more on manufacturing, focusing on, clients, suppliers, assets, projects, products, audits, CAPAs, service requests, a lot of different type of workflow, and document training and learning by different team members. So at any given point, you can put questions on chat, and Brandon, Jess, or one of the other people's team members will collect your questions, and we can actually address them at the end of the meeting. But if you have questions, definitely just type it in chat, let them know there's questions, and we'll make sure we have some time to follow up with some of these questions that you might have. Okay. All right, and I'm going to start the demo now. M-Files is a cloud or on-prem solution that you can deploy either way. If it's on-prem, it will be on one of your servers on-prem at your location, or a private cloud that you all own, or you can actually deploy it with M-Files hosted, where everything is on their Azure cloud. So here is my M-Files client. So M-Files clients can be accessed via desktop installation, web browser, or iOS or Android devices. So you can actually, have your team members or technicians or anyone out in the field accessing information that they have access to when they're not in the office, which is always nice, right? So here is the M-Files UI, very, very simple and clean. We do have a search bar in here that you can actually go in and start searching for anything that you want in the system, either by the metadata or indexed information you add to the document, or by any content context of the document you have in the system. So as long as it's OCR'd, it becomes searchable. So I'm going to go in here and type in a search for invoices. When I search for invoices, I'm going to get thousands and thousands of hits because we do have a lot of invoices in the system. Just like you do when you go to Google or Amazon when you search, by just doing a quick, simple keyword, you're going to get a lot of hits. But as you start adding additional criteria, you will actually kind of limit your result set from thousands to something smaller. So even at adding the 2024 in here, it still has a lot of results. So I'm going to add additional keywords and actually have it refine my search from thousands to 96, top left-hand corner. And if I add something additional in here, we might get the result set to 16. Right? 16 documents is a lot more manageable than 1,000+ documents. So this is the standard, Google, Amazon search. What M-Files have done in the past year is they have added a lot of intelligence services into the system, where we can actually use the intelligence services to kind of help us narrow down my search. So dynamically, M-File is creating these filters that we can actually use, right, to kind of help us limit our result set. So if I want 2024, I can click on this little box and not having to type anything in. and I can specify the month of April. Okay? And that will kind of help me narrow down my search. And I can go into the company, Canon, and then go into the type of invoice I'm looking for. So I can actually use these dynamically generated filters to help me find that needle in the haystack. And when I click on this, I can look at the metadata, and I can actually look at the preview of the document, right? Basically, I'm able to get to the document very quickly using our smart search and our filters that's dynamically generated. And if I want, I can actually grab some content, right? I can copy that part number from the document, and I can actually search for that number without any of these smart filters. I can just type in that number, and mFile is intelligent enough for it to actually show me the document straight from just that one number you have in the body of the document, right? So literally finding that needle in the haystack. I'm going to showcase another document that I have in here. So if I know what I'm looking for, I can actually type this in. One of the things that you notice is when I type in a word, we actually have a recent searches in here, a little bit of history that you can actually use to find that document quickly. So this document was something I use all the time. So I'm able to literally just select it from my recent search and look at the document in question. One of the reasons why I always pick this document is this document has a lot of versions, and I want to show the team how the versions look like. So right now we have version 38. So I can actually check my history and see my version of documents. So what we have in here is a lot of audit history of that one specific document, right? Not, 38 different copies, but one copy of the document that has a lot of different versions. And at any given point, right, I can look at the document at version 38 and see how that looks like. I can also click on version 1 and see how that looks like, right? So very easy way for you to use our history to look at the document at different time in the system, right? And you will always have access to the document. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and go back. Okay. We also have the feature built in that you can actually check out documents or check out for co-authoring. So if you have SOPs or if you have contracts you're reviewing, this is a great way to actually have mFiles help you track changes made to the document. So if I want, I can actually click on my checkout. Once I check out the document, this document has now been set to read only for everyone else except for the person that actually checked out the document. At this point, I can actually go in here, open the document, and make necessary changes to the document. Once you're done making changes, you can actually close the document, save it. So changes have been made to the document. So now if I look at this, you see that the change was made in the preview, and the version went from 38 to 39 in here, so that it's been a change. And if we actually click on the document and look at the history, here's people sent in here, it will show you that there was a change made today. And here is our version history. And you can see when it was changed. It was changed today at 2:09 p.m. by Daniel. Very quick and simple way to actually look at the documents in the system. Another item I actually want to show the team is that some of the permissions that we have in here, right? Based on what the document is, we actually set up automatic permissions. So for a sales correspondence document, it's set to full control, so everyone can go in, make changes, edits, change permissions. But the minute I change this to something else, for example, an IT resource file, the minute you change this, it will tell you that, hey, we're making changes to the permission. Are you sure? Once you apply the permission, the change in here, our automatic permissions change. Now only certain people have access to the system, right? Which is a nice little way to control what access certain people have, because by just merely changing that, I'm able to literally change permissions. I don't have to be an IT admin to make these necessary changes. Once we define who has access to these documents, if I change it back to sales correspondence, now more people will have access. So you don't need to have an IT background to actually make changes to the permission, because we're not forcing the users to make permission changes at that level. We're just having you to identify the correct document classification. Once we do that, we have permissions set in place. Right? One other item I want to give the team a quick overview is we actually have an integration with Outlook. This is one of the best integrations MFAs have actually came out with in the past 3 years. Anytime you have a document in Outlook, if you want to archive the document, you simply click on M files and you want to assign metadata. What is this? This looks like a project correspondence. What company is it with Imagex? And then I can specify a project that we're working on. And this is the favorite part. You can actually save replies automatically from Outlook into M files. As you reply back or have the external people reply, the whole chain will now be saved in M files, right? So it's not just one email at 2:12 p.m. on 2/26. Is any emails that replies to this email chain will be archived automatically into M files. If there's attachments, those attachments will be saved directly into M files. So this is one of the best features that they have released in the last several years. I am a big fan and I use it every single day, because in the past, I would just save one email and not the reply email from other people unless I remember. This is a nice little add-on that they have made in the past couple of years. Okay. I'm going to pause a second and see if there's any questions about just M files in general.
Yes, I do have one. It says, where does the data sit? Is it in the company servers or on the M file servers?
So that was something I kind of mentioned briefly. Depending on how you want to deploy the system, if you want to deploy it on-prem, that means it's on your server, right? You also have an option to deploy this on a M files hosted cloud, which is actually sitting on Microsoft Azure platform. So those are your options. Or you can actually set up a private cloud that your company might use, like Amazon AWS, Google Drive platform, or Microsoft Azure. It really depends on how your IT team wants to deploy new technology. But right now, we're about 80-20, right? 80% of the customers that we work with have it on M files cloud, and the other 20% is a combination of having on-prem or putting on their private cloud. Yeah. So I'm going to actually change gears now. So I'm going to focus more on manufacturing now. So what we did was basic M files to kind of give the team an idea of how everything's laid out, how everything is searched, right? So now we're talking about more, manufacturing related. How can we use M files in the manufacturing sector, right? So what I have in here is a kind of like a demo vault that is focused more on manufacturing. So the terminology is more, things that you all kind of relate to, right? We have suppliers. We can actually have suppliers in M files, right? These are the, demo supplies I have in the system, right? We can actually integrate with your line of business, right? I know right now we have Acumatica enabled. We're working on, I believe, help me out here, Josh. What's the next one you guys are working on?
Intuitive.
Thank you. So Intuit is one of the items that's being worked on next, right? Depending on what the requirement is from customer. If you use another type of ERP or another line of business, I think that is a conversation that you can talk to Brandon, and we'll figure out what makes sense. So one of the strong things about mFiles is we have an open API that we can actually talk to your line of business and actually sync data, right? Something simple as supplier clients we can sync, and we can actually sync other information too. Who is the person that's managing that relationship? So we have that. What products do they have, right? This supplier supplies cardboard boxes, right? And you can actually identify additional information in the system, right? Their cardboard box supplier is Pulp and Paper America, and this is part of the relationship that this company have, right? So we can identify what they supply to the team. So we expand on Steel and Stone Limited. These are the different items that they supply. A is, who are these guys? What products are they supplying? They're supplying, an axle. They're supplying brackets for axle. They're supplying leg braces, etc., etc. So these are items that we can help you with. We also have our clients, right? Who are the clients, right? These are a listing of clients that we have in the system. Acme. Who is Acme, right? You can see all that information in here. You identify, how big they are, what is their NAICS code, right? Location. And then once you expand, you can actually see the team members assigned to work with them, right? Do they have any open service requests? They do. There's a booking handle that came in, and Ophelia is the person that's working on them, and this was a new service request. Are there any projects? Yes, there's a elevator replacement project, and this is a ongoing project based on this workflow that we have. Who are the people involved, what date, what time? All that information is in here. And then we have office location. The main office is based, here and there. And then we have documents related to that client. These are the documents that they have sent to us. We have a risk management document. We have a manufacturing test plan document, right? All these documents that came in from this one client, it's all organized in here that we can find information very quickly and easily. You can always search for them, but usually what I do is if I'm in that client, I can actually find their documents very easily based on what I want to search, right? So here is our client and their information. Outside of supplier clients, we also have other items that we can manage, right? We can manage, like I said before, projects. What are all the projects that we have? We have these 3 active projects going on. One's ongoing, 2 of them is new project. So you can definitely use mFiles as a way to help you track your projects. And then we also have products. So these are all the products that we can add into the system that you can, at any given point, your team members can go in and figure out, okay, we have this one product. Who is our supplier? What are the documentations with that supplier? So here is a drawing, right? This one might take a little bit of time to open the drawing. It's a AutoCAD file. It might take a little bit longer, depending on how complicated that looks like. I'm going to give it 5-10 seconds, and now we'll move on. So AutoCAD drawing preview takes a little bit longer, depending on how big the file is. But at any given point, right, you can go into your products, look at the actual item in question, identify who it's coming from, what it is. You can look at any related documents on that specific product. You can identify, who's working on it, high-level overview of everything that you have in the system. We also can help you manage your CAPAs, your audits, right? So in here, I have an audit. I have some CAPA management in here. So these audits are things that you are working on, right? We're reviewing the SOP audit. So if there's a lot of audits being done by your internal team or external team, you can actually use mFiles to help you track the audit, right? Identify what the workflow looks like, what state it's in, right? So these are audits. And now I'm going to actually do a workflow demo of this audit in a second. So hang tight. So we have audits, we have CAPAs, corrective action, preventive action. So we can identify any CAPAs that we have added into the system, right? We have this one CAPA recorded, and these are the items in question, right? And then based on what the actual CAPAs are, you can identify if there's related to any individual or if there's any corrective actions made to that CAPA. Yeah. And then we have preventive action. Right, simple items like this. So you can actually go into the system, track all your CAPAs in here as well as all your audit items in here. One of the items that we added in here that is actually nice to have is like a service request. So if you have service requests coming in, I think this is the one that we mentioned earlier with the booking handle, right? You can actually use mFiles to track service requests coming in from external clients or from your internal team, right? So it's not just a document management, is a platform where we can actually use mFiles to do a lot of different items. Okay? So just think about mFile as an information platform and not just a document storage. I'm going to change gears for a second and jump into our workflows. So within the manufacturing repository that we have, we can actually create customized workflows to help us track what's going on. I think we mentioned clients earlier, right? We can do a client life cycle, right? We can get a prospect in here, have internal people go do. This is a very, very simple workflow. Obviously, depending on how much we want to add to it, we can expand on the workflow. We can have document sign off, right? A little bit more complicated. So if there's a document that needs a lot of draft approval, second approval, third approval, fourth approval, mFiles can handle that type of workflow process. We also have an internal document review, right? Very simple. Anytime there's a new document created, it goes through a document review. If it's not okay, then it basically goes back to waiting for review until it reviews complete, expire, no review required, etc. We also have a employee training one that we did earlier. Very simple, right? Document needs to be learned. The employee needs to go into the system and actually learn the document. Once they finish learning the document, it's completed. And then depending on what our expiration is or frequency of the training document, it can actually auto set to expire. Once it's set to auto expire, we can actually notify supervisor that it's been expired. Or we have an assignment for the employee, they never learned it, it's incomplete, and their supervisors notify that they did not complete their training or learning in this case. And then one of the items that we showed earlier was our service requests, right? Very simple type of diagram. Okay. And the one I'm going to actually use for the demo is actually this one right here, in audit. So we have a planned audit. It's an ongoing audit until the audit is completed, right? Obviously, if there's follow action, it goes to one path. If there's no issues, it goes in audit close, right? Once again, very, very simple audit. Let me go ahead and actually create a new audit right now. So within mFile itself, users can actually create items based on their permission. I'm going to create a new audit. And these are the actual required fields. What kind of audit is it? Is it an internal audit, a management quality review, or regulatory review? I'm going to pick internal audit. It's going to ask me for a quick, simple title. You identify what the start date is and how much time you're going to give an audit until you get to finish. Okay, identify who the people are that you want to add as an auditor. So I haven't added anybody yet, so I'm going to add myself. I'll add Jim, actually Brandon. Right, you can add in all the necessary information. I'm going to go ahead and actually skip this and just create this Brandon as our internal auditor. And then we have auditees internal that we can add in here. I can add, James. And a lot of times, all this information is already in the system, right? So there's auditors, findings, descriptions, client, or any other information you need to add, and you create this. Once you create this audit, right, it follows the actual audit workflow itself. So based on the workflow, it might be assigned to, James, right? He's the auditee, right? He might be the one that's receiving this, and James in turn needs to review the actual supply and make sure that they are concurrent with their certification, make sure they are concurrent with the COI, and then once he finished what he needs to do, he can say, you know what, it's an ongoing, I'm collecting information. So you can say gathering certifications from supplier, right? You can add notes into the system, save it, and then now it's sitting in ongoing, right? So once he received the certifications, he can actually add documents and say, you know what, we added additional documents to that ongoing audit, and now the audit is complete. There's no issues. It's done. So this is a nice, simple way of using M-Files with some of these processes that you have that's internal. So now you go into our close audits in 2025. We just finished this one. And then from here, you can actually look at some of the history and see what was actually done. And if we have different people logging in for different steps, you will actually have them, stated in here that Brandon came in or James came in and make their changes into the system, right? Nice, simple way to actually use M-Files to track your internal or external audits. We also, one other thing I want to share with the team is how to create a new training action. So I can actually say, I am going to create a new training document, right? Right, so I can actually create a short title. And this is an internal document. And I can specify anything else I want in here, right? Different products. And then I can pull the SOP that we have in here. So I can assign this to, let's say, Sam. And I want Sam to start learning this today. He have next week to finish. Okay. So now it's going to actually assign this training to Sam. I don't forget anything. I should be okay. Sorry. Okay. So once we assign this to Sam, Sam's going to receive an email notification that, Sam, you have a training record that you need to actually work on, right? So you need to actually look at the document, right? This training document is going to tell him what to do. And then he needs to actually look at this and say, well, I need to actually learn how to use this SOP. Once he's done, Sam can go back in here and say, you know what? He learned it. He can actually come in here and say, this has been learned. And now this is actually archived in the system until we have some type of automation built in that this training record is only good for 6 months. Every 6 months, Sam is going to receive a notification that he needs to come back and retrain on this SOP before he's certified again on this document, right? I'm condensing this demo into literally 30 minutes, so I took a lot of shortcuts. If there's questions, go ahead and post any questions you have. Let's go ahead and actually end this part. Focus on the questions, and then kind of wrap up the webinar. Jess.
Yeah, so if you guys have any questions, throw them down in the box, and Daniel will be happy to answer them.
And once again, if there's additional discussion needed, reach out to Brandon, and then we can schedule another meeting where we can actually spend a little bit more time. Everything's kind of, condensed, so it is, shortened quite a bit.
Yeah, and Brendan, if there's anything you would like to say before we wrap it up.
No, if you could just pull up my information again so they have it. I mean, I have reached out to all these people individually, but just, help them out if need be.
Give me 1 second.
Yep. And then as you guys can see, my email is right there at the very bottom, that last line of green text. But yes, I will be reaching out to everyone, just seeing what their thoughts were and, kind of learning a little bit more about their situation, if M-Files would be a good fit for them.
Yep. So thank you, everybody, for coming out today. We will be following up with you guys, seeing if you want to see more, what kind of situations you guys are in. But most of all, we want to say thank you for coming out. Thank you, Daniel, for presenting. Thank you, People Sense team, for showing up. And everyone, have a good rest of your day.
Great. Thank you. Bye-bye.